Welcome to the Low Law Podcast, Justice in West Texas.
Welcome back to the Low Law Podcast, Justice in West Texas, with Tara Gilmore-Low of the Low Law Firm. Tara is a personal injury attorney based in Abilene who has spent more than 20 years helping West Texans after serious accidents. I'm Chelsea, and today we're talking about uninsured and underinsured motorist claims in Texas and what happens when the other driver doesn't have enough insurance to cover the damage they caused. Welcome back, Tara.
Hi, Chelsea.
Hey, what does uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage mean in Texas law? And how do those two situations differ?
So those are coverages that are bundled together, but they do have very different meanings. And they sort of, the definition is sort of in the name. So underinsured coverage, UIM, is what kicks in on your own policy when you've been involved in an accident and the other party, the at-fault party, doesn't have enough insurance to cover your damages, making them effectively underinsured. What a lot of people don't know is that in Texas, the minimum required insurance limit is $30,000. People never understand that when they're going and they're paying for their minimum insurance coverage, the person that hit them is likely paying for that minimum insurance coverage as well. And if they cause an accident and you're seriously injured, the maximum amount of insurance coverage available would be that $30,000 to an individual. So now the UM portion of that coverage is uninsured motorist coverage. So that kicks in on your own policy when the at-fault party hits you and they have no insurance coverage. And in Texas, the numbers all differ. It's anywhere from 10 to 15%. And I don't think those numbers are correct, but that's what TDI tells us. So
that's the percentage of drivers that don't have insurance?
That are uninsured, correct.
Wow. Okay. So in West Texas, how common is it for crashes to involve drivers who have either uninsured or underinsured insurance?
Often I will see the underinsured issue because if you have to have surgery, $30,000 is not going to cut it. I don't see the uninsured as often, but I would say I see it a few times a year. I would say I see it a few times a year. I couldn't really give you any decent statistics because we don't keep up with them. If the other person is uninsured and you don't carry the UIM coverage on your own policy, it can be very difficult to recover anything for you. So we don't deal with those a whole lot. But I would say I see them a handful of times a year. The underinsured portion claim, those type of claims, I see those a lot. The majority of people carry minimum insurance limits. And I lecture my clients constantly, you need to review your insurance policy and you need to do two things. You need to up your insurance limits and you need to make sure you have first party coverage, which is that UIM coverage. Because people have this thinking that because someone else is at fault and hit them, that their insurance company is just going to start stroking checks for their damages. That is not how it works. And to me, it would be worth it to spend a few more dollars a month, and it's not a ton, a few more dollars a month to make sure that those damages can be covered instead of putting myself at the mercy of someone else to make sure they have coverage. So I give that lecture a lot.
And we'll save this recording so somebody else send this to someone who needs to hear it. So when someone's injured by an uninsured or underinsured driver, how does their own insurance policy come into play? So if I'm in a car accident and I'm hit by somebody who's uninsured or underinsured, how does that impact my insurance?
So what the insurance companies tell us is that these first party coverages, like we're talking about, the UIM coverage, uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage, is no fault coverage. It is not supposed to make your premiums go up. It is not supposed to affect your ability to get or maintain insurance coverage. I'm not going to sit here and lie. An insurance company is out to make money. Are they maybe going to raise the premium some if there's an accident and you have to make a first party claim? It's possible. They're probably going to raise them anyway, though. So it's not designed to, and they tell us constantly, it does not make your premiums go up. But chances are your premium is going to go up anyway. So
What tends to surprise people the most about using their own or UIM coverage after a serious accident?
I think what surprises them most is that they need to. Um, People truly do not understand how insurance limits work in the third party context. And so I think there's two things I think that shock them. One, that they need to use it and they need to have it. But then two, making an underinsured claim can get tricky. You still have the burden of proving that all of your damages are related to that third party accident. So even though you're looking to your own carrier to cover your damages, you still have to prove up your case the same way that you would as if the third party, the at-fault party, had enough coverage. And that can get tricky and it can get complicated. It's not like the insurance company, again, just because it's your carrier, it's not like they're going to just stroke a check because you paid for $30,000 in UIM coverage. Does not work like that. You still have to prove up your case to them like you would the third party.
How do these insurance companies typically handle claims like this, especially when the injured person is technically making a claim against their own policy?
It's very similar. There's not a lot of differences in the way the carrier is going to deal with their own insured. Now, a lot of people think there should be. A lot of people think because they've been paying for their insurance coverage for years and years and years, and they've been loyal to whoever the company is, that the company's going to treat them right. That's not true. To them, you're just another number, and they're going to treat you the same way they would treat anyone else. Is it a little easier? Sometimes. I don't even know if I could say that. It gives you more security. Let me just put it like that. Because I'm not kidding. Most drivers refuse to pay for more than minimal limits. And if that person hits you and hurts you really bad, you're going to be grateful you have that first party coverage, no matter how the insurance company treats you and no matter if it makes your premiums go up a little bit.
What mistakes can hurt a or a UIM claim early on, particularly in the days and weeks right after a crash?
The only thing I can think of that's really an issue is when you are dealing with your own carrier, you have certain contractual duties like giving them a statement, updating them on your case, updating them on your injuries, telling them what happened, telling them why the other person is at fault, things like that. That's really the only thing I can think of that's a huge issue and that could potentially be detrimental. Other than that, it's really not. In that context, it's not that different from a third party claim, a claim against the at-fault party's carrier. But like I said, you do have some contractual duties with your own carrier that do need to be dealt with up front. But if you get a lawyer, they can help you with all that.
Yeah, I was like, this seems like a lot of different moving pieces that you need
help with. It can be. Yeah, it definitely can be. There's a lot involved.
How does the process of resolving a or UIM claim differ from a standard third-party injury claim?
Okay. Most of them will resolve very similarly. The general process, and this is not always, but the general process is you're going to resolve for an underinsured claim. You'll resolve the third-party claim, and you'll look to your carrier for the first-party claim. Now, it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes the damages are so bad you can collect from either party at any time, either carrier at any time. But when the damages are sort of questionable, it gets a little more complicated trying to prove up a more substantial damage case to your carrier. So, and that gets complicated, and I don't want to get into all that in this podcast. It's generally the same. There are a few technical differences, like your lawyer, before they settle with a third-party carrier, is going to want to make sure they have permission to do so. That's one thing that's kind of important, one thing to address. Like I said, there are some technical differences, but overall, it's the same. You're going to need to prove up your injuries, and that's your job, or your lawyers. You prove up your injuries, prove up your medical bills, stuff like that. That's still very similar. The differences will come when you have to pursue a lawsuit against your carrier because they won't compensate you adequately. And that is an animal that would need to be its own 2-hour podcast at minimum.
Yes. That can be arranged.
Yeah, right. It'd be a lot of talking.
Oh, from a practical standpoint, how do you help clients understand the value of a or UIM claim when policy limits and damages aren't always lining up?
Some of these questions are kind of tough to answer. So essentially we said that is so based on the types of injuries and damages you've got, because at the end of the day, you're still selecting an amount of coverage on your own policy. And again, it's one of those situations where people will generally select the cheapest option, even if they're willing to spend that extra few bucks for that first party coverage, that UIM coverage. They don't want to spend another few bucks to have higher limits of coverage. And so what happens is how to make them understand the value. At the end of the day, the value is not based on the amount of insurance coverage available. The value of a case is based on the damages held by the person who was injured. That is always very, very difficult. But when we're looking at resolving a claim within the limits of insurance, you just have to basically look and see what types of injuries you had, what type of insurance coverage you've got, and what kind of money is available. Obviously, if you've got someone who was hit by a drunk driver and left paralyzed, there is not that. Even if every party in the car had money available, there's not enough money available. So that's a conversation where it's I don't even like talking about insurance limits with that person. But if you've got someone who maybe had a broken leg, didn't have surgery, had a little bit of, healing while the you couldn't move, had some mobility issues for a few weeks, that can probably be resolved. And that's when you sit them down and say, look, here's the limits of the third party, the at-fault party. We've got your underinsured coverage. It's going to cover it. We need to go ahead and make that claim. But that's kind of a difficult question to answer because it is so relative to the types of damages that you've got. I hope I gave you some sort of answer there.
Well, it's a good answer because there's no blanket answer, which means you
Right.
need to get some help.
I need some context. Yeah.
For someone listening who's unsure whether they even have or UIM coverage, what steps should they take to find out before a problem comes up?
Call your agent or call your insurance carrier, or if you're a tech savvy person, which I am not, get on your insurance app and look at your declarations page in your policy. It will have on there whether or not you have those limits or whether you have rejected those limits. If you've rejected them, you need to go in and add them.
I'm taking notes.
Just call your carrier and say, I need to add first party coverage.
Help me.
If you're in Texas, you need to add first party coverage.
Tara told me. I'm calling right now.
Right?
Well, thank you so much. It's always fun hearing these different topics with you. Thank you for another great episode.
Absolutely, Chelsea. Thank you so much.
And that wraps up today's episode of the Low Law Podcast, Justice in West Texas with Tara Gilmore-Low. If you have questions about uninsured or underinsured motorist claims, or want to know and review options after an accident, you can learn more at lowlawfirm.com or contact Tara and her team at the Low Law Firm in Abilene. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to leave a review, and subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.